Hello everyone, so I wanted to make this video as some kind of update on a video that I never did, because this machine was born. Now it's almost 6 months that I started with this project. I wanted to build like an ITX small form factor panelless machine, and I started with some different parts in the beginning. I was using an MSI motherboard because it was having I was using light load mode to make the undervolt work. The CPU is at 12400. Oh, here it is. It's now locked up. Here it is. So I was only using the 12400 and the MSI B660M-A Pro, something like that. Yeah, and I was trying different kind of PSUs to fit in this case, and when I finally found this one, in the meanwhile, I was doing some research on undervolt, and I found that this motherboard, the ASUS B660 ITX ROG, actually had a version of the BIOS, the 1620. Oh, I will just show you, just to show you. That actually allowed me to undervolt, like massive 150 millivolt undervolt. And so I was like, finally I found the right motherboard. I spent all of this time looking for a very small power supply, and I could have used the this ITX board from the beginning, because again, previously I was only looking for MSI boards, and MSI that didn't have any cheap ITX motherboard for Elder Lake. So this is BIOS version 16.20. You can see the system here. If I go to advanced, now the system is working at like, this is not, this is like the minimum offset I can set, okay? But this machine worked for 2 months, maybe even 3 months, at minus 140. Okay, it was working like this. It was having like amazing scores in every benchmark. It was running at coolest, yeah, like this. No fan, nothing, just the metal box, and it was working fine. I set the limit at 45 watts, no problem, no issues. And then one day the client started to say the machine has issues booting up, and whenever it boots up, it hangs at the Windows screen. And yeah, so I came to visit him now, because this issues he was having these issues for a couple of days now, a couple of weeks actually, but we live in different cities. And now I'm here in Bologna, and the machine just would never boot if I set anything on the offset sign. Okay, and any offset would cause the machine to hang. I tried to use my external SSD with Windows. It does the same exact thing, but the BIOS version didn't change. And I was having the same exact issue with the previous version of the BIOS on a 12600K. So this was the reason I actually got this motherboard to begin with, because this motherboard came from a client. He had a 12600K, and the machine was working like shit. And I was like, yes, but the 12600K is supposed to undervolt because it's a K SKU. So it was always supposed to undervolt. So I put the 12600K inside an MSI motherboard, which was the motherboard that I was also using for this machine in the beginning. I put the 12600K there. I could undervolt it like crazy, of course, minus 70 and light load mode 3, I think. So I dropped like 40 watts from the power consumption that I was having on this motherboard, on this B660. And then when I started to research like the microcode exploit, like the fact that some microcode version of some Intel firmware from September, October 2022 were allowing me to undervolt, I took this motherboard out. I updated the BIOS. I actually, the motherboard updated itself the BIOS, which was another reason for me to drop this board, because I set everything with the BIOS, inside all the tuning in the machine with BIOS 1607, and then the machine upgraded itself to 1602 to 1620 by itself by Windows update. So I got super angry because the client was like, why my FPS vanished from Windows update? And it was all because of the automatic Windows updates of the BIOS, which is something that I like. You have a performance gaming motherboard. You set every single damn timing inside of the BIOS. You set every single refresh, everything in a very specific manner. And then one day the Windows Update just erase everything. And I'm lucky that I keep track of every tuning that I do. So again, this motherboard is just fucked up. I mean, it's amazing the fact that you can buy it's the cheapest ITX DDR5 motherboard. It has very good memory performance, but it just doesn't work. Like, there's no way this ASUS B660 Ti never ever has any kind of coherence, you know? I'm now facing the same exact issue that I was having with the BIOS 1607, but the machine worked fine for 2 months, maybe 3, and now it just stopped. And now if I boot the machine without any offset, it can boot up fine. So how many times why did I trust ASUS again? I mean, I didn't buy this board. This board was inside a client computer that was brought in for tuning, and I did the tuning on the RAM, and I figured out that the 12600K was not undervolt, so I let the machine go with only the RAM tuning, and then when the BIOS updated itself, I decided to swap the board for the client because I didn't want to deal with it anymore. Then I gave it another chance. Oh, you can see that? Now it works. I don't know the password, but as you can see, it works perfectly. So I gave the board another chance, and it failed on me again for the second time. ASUS it's really the trashiest. It's even worse than ASRock now for me. Like, ASRock, at least it's consistently bad and consistently cheap. ASUS is just all over the place. No reason, nothing makes any sense. The naming scheme on the BIOS settings are always made up, so you can never understand whatever they want to mean with the names on the BIOS. Every single voltage has their own ASUS names. I hate them. So that was a rant. I hope you find it interesting. I didn't. I mean, there's really no sense here. I hope I can figure out something in the future. Maybe I hope I can make some use of this board in a way that it doesn't fuck itself up after a couple of months. Maybe with a 13 gen, and they have a BIOS with this that is supposed to unlock the microcode for undervolting at least Raptor Lake, and I will put this motherboard in use for that, and I will come back to MSI for this undervolt machine because MSI just works. Ciao a tutti.